Yeah. So you win this one, you go to the World Series.
Yeah, they got 5 more games after this one.
Don't you think 7 games is too much? I think 5 is good. Like for all championships that have series.
5 was the
7's a
last.
lot.
The last series was 5.
I mean, you got to win. That's 4 games, which is just going to get prolonged. And the inevitable.
I don't think so, because this baseball is just so different. Depending on who's like on the mound, can totally change the game.
Like watching, watch the Hawks.
You got to get an average.
I only watch my home teams in basketball or baseball or anything else other than football when they're in a playoff or championship. I'm completely that person because I can't sit through a baseball season. I can't sit through a basketball season. Too many games. I think me and Wake have both talked about that. It's just too many games for me. I can't keep my attention on it. And I try to explain to people, like, the sports I follow have a very strenuous, stringent schedule. Like, but football is Monday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, college and pro, and then golf is Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And that's pretty much what I'll follow. My problem with basketball and baseball is that I don't know what night something's on. It'll be Monday at 7:00, and then the next game's Tuesday, and then they take 3 days off, and they're playing again on Thursday, and it's just a lot to keep up with schedule-wise. So I don't tend to watch any sports that have like a random schedule that I can't know when they're going to be on.
Yeah, I love baseball. I watch them all. Anyone I can.
But yeah, the 7-game series. Yeah, 7 games, man. It's too many. Get it to
That's
5.
kind of one of the things that's a bummer about when there's series. Like it kind of removes or really diminishes the possibility of like an underdog winning. Because in 7 games,
you know what?
the better
I think
team
all
is going
series should be 3.
to win.
Oh, the hottest team is going to win.
Give me 3 games in a series. That's all I need. Give me best of 3. 2 wins. Let's move on to the next round. You know what I mean? And then I guess it builds steam and it builds intensity, but intensosity. But
intensosity.
It is not for me. It is not for me. I just enjoy.
Well, the NBA playoffs last like 3 months. It's ridiculous.
Dude. I mean, it's like there's so many like divisions and then conferences and all this other stuff, and then each of them take 7 games to a 7-game series every time, and then somebody's up 2-0. Then inevitably they're going to get tired, and then the other team's going to slip in and win one. And then now it's 2-1, and there's a chance that somebody's going to come back. And, it's just like, oh, my God, I just want to – I don't want the labor pains. I want the baby. I don't need, 72 games of playoffs just to see who's the championship's going to be. I mean, it's just unbelievable to me. Like, I like how college football and the pros do it. It's like 1 game. You win the 1 game, you move on.
Yeah.
I like that. I dig that.
Playoff.
Because I think that's harder.
No, yeah, there's way more at stake.
Yeah, I mean, you got to win that 1 game, and if you don't, it's over. You might win, 9 out of 10 of those games, but if you don't win it that one time, then you're screwed. So I enjoy.
And there's more upsets that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, speaking of sports, Gruden. For those who don't know, John Gruden was the coach of the Raiders. Las Vegas Raiders.
Las Vegas Raiders, indeed.
Which is weird. But anyway, and we kind of touched on it last week. Had some emails that got read from a few years ago from other owners and whatnot, using some pretty brave language towards his boss, Roger Goodell, and some what would you say? Some slang. I don't know what the word would be for it.
I was offended by rubber lips.
Inappropriate towards certain groups of people. We'll say it that way.
So what about me? I have rubber lips. If that's what he's referring to.
Yeah. Well, okay. So It's got to
Well,
look
he not.
he wasn't. What he actually said was he had the lips the size of Michelin tires.
Oh,
okay. Well,
Yeah, I was like,
yep. And
he said
you
what?
know,
And I was
and
like,
ladies
man,
love that,
that'll get
so
you.
he's just jealous.
Well, I don't know.
The ladies like the big lips.
I don't know. I think
Don't try to take this away from me.
I mean, he's a Super Bowl winning coach, right? I mean, you know, he has quite a history of being a winner. And I remember when he kind of, I guess, semi-retired, everybody wanted him as a coach. Even college teams were talking about trying to get Gruden as a coach. He apparently can bring out the talent in a lot of different guys, and he was in high demand. And of course, he was doing Monday Night Football, right? And a lot of broadcasting stuff. And he had Gruden's quarterback room, which people really liked because he would break down quarterbacks. So he ends up taking a huge deal with the Raiders a couple of years ago, like 10-year, right? Like ridiculous money.
yeah, it was a 10-year, $100 million contract.
Yeah, it's just an unheard of contract. And I'm sure he had a lot of protection in that contract. I'm sure they did too. Both very smart people, probably on both sides. I don't know what this will entail, what he gets paid, but yeah, things were rolling around and not so great in Las Vegas. I mean, they have a good team. They're not Super Bowl bound. They're not a playoff team. They have an okay team. Some people would question some things Gruden's done over the last couple of years with that team. But then the report comes out that there's some emails where he's using the F word to describe somebody who's homosexual. I think he called Roger Goodell a bitch or something.
No, that's what he called Roger Goodell. That.
Yeah. Who's his boss? And I'm not even sure how
he was using it the way we would have used it when we were kids.
No,
right,
no,
but he's an
no,
adult
was,
male.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's an adult male.
Plus, you know, they're on,
and you have to know
they're on their company servers too. He's got to be smarter than that.
Yeah,
Even
you gotta
10
be
years
smarter
ago, he
than
needs to be smarter than that.
I mean, just don't do it, private or public, and you're fine. That's the thing. I think that's how a lot of rational people look at it. Like, you know, sure, you know, people say things from all cultures that probably if other groups heard, they would be offended by that. That's just living in life. Sometimes, you know, sometimes it's just joking around, doesn't mean any harm. But when you email that stuff out, it's on your company servers, and you know, people are digging through it. It looks really bad on you, as it probably should. And they fired him. What, Thursday? Was it Monday night? Was the Monday night game
resigned.
last week?
He resigned, but I mean, it was given the.
I think
sure
it was fire or resign. Right.
Yeah.
And that could have been language in a contract too. Like, you know, does it work out for both parties if he resigns as far as contractual obligation? You know, that may be in the contract where it just works out better.
Well, like he might have
firing.
been able, from the initial email, he might have been able to finesse that situation and keep his job. But the next morning, all hell broke loose, and he hit like every group you could possibly offend. And
well, and now these emails have gone out to other owners and managers and GMs, and responses were made, and so this may not be the end of it. You know,
I don't think
we may see a lot of coaches that you know, may be in trouble for this as well. But and general managers and anybody else, because I think it was the president of the Washington football team that I think was on a couple of those emails, right?
yeah, it was.
There's some stuff coming out on that.
George Allen's son.
Yeah, and he's got some things that are coming out in his emails now. Who's going through all the emails? Do you think this is just somebody from the NFL that's just kind of cleaning servers out and looking?
No, it was a investigation into from the league on the Washington football team.
And then because Gruden's brother
emails came up. Yeah,
Gruden's brother coached for the Washington football team, so
that's right.
That's probably where it ties back to him.
And
probably
he and Allen were friends, and Allen was
right.
the GM at Washington.
And maybe would not have been a big story if he wasn't coaching the Raiders. You know, I think him coaching the Raiders definitely magnified the situation.
It probably magnified it, but he's a big name
coach. Yeah. Definitely. I mean, if he's doing Monday Night Football or whatever, I mean, he's fired anyway for those emails. I mean, I don't know that it's specific to him being a coach. I think anything he would have been doing probably would have got him fired. But it's some derogatory statements. We're not going to repeat them here. I mean, Scott was kind of getting around about one of them, but it was some derogatory things said about certain people and his boss and
he was
certain players.
And he was being surprisingly ignorant about CTE. That was that pissed me off a lot. Like, people are dying, and he's blasé about it and acting like it's not an issue, and which is easy for somebody who never actually played a down in the NFL to say.
Yeah. It looks bad, and it's gonna get worse. I just don't know how the Raiders were going to be able to kind of work this thing out. I mean, he's their boy. I mean, he's been the Davis family who owns that team's boy for a long time, and they felt like they had finally gotten their guy. And I think he would have done those whole 10 years, no matter if his record was 0-18 or what. I think he would have done the whole 10 years because they believe in him immensely. And I think he's been so out of the coaching game. He's just done some stupid things so far.
Well, there's never been a point in his career that I didn't think he was stupid.
No, not as a
things that come out of his mouth are stupid. Those interviews that he would do with the college quarterbacks that were going into the draft, I thought were just ridiculous. They were a complete joke.
Yeah.
Oh, his little quarterback room.
Yeah, I thought there was everything he said to him was, and then he'd just look at him with a serious face, and it seemed like the student, the young quarterback, would be like, "Well, I guess I got to answer him as John Gruden," and he's looking at me all weird.
Just to touch on that, I remember when he did one with, I don't know if you ever saw the one with Johnny Manziel, where it was so obvious Johnny Manziel doesn't play playbook football. He just plays yard football. And he's really good. Yeah. I mean, he's Willie Beeman. I mean, I've ever seen Any Given Sunday. He's Willie Beeman. He doesn't, there's no playbook. And he's, what do you do in this situation? What do you do in that situation? And Manziel's answering, and it's just like, well, that's a different way to look at it. Sure. If you can pull this guy off of that route, blah, blah, blah. And you just tell Johnny Manziel, I mean, as it became obvious down the road, was not a playbook quarterback at all. I would think Texas A&M just said, hey, go play yard football, enjoy yourself, and try to win. And he would do that. That's why I kind of enjoyed watching Johnny Manziel. But I think there were times, like Scott's saying, where you watch that and you're just like, I don't know. These two were not on the same page at all. And
I don't know.
I think Gruden, kind of became an entertainer at the end of the day with that. And I don't know. I mean, it'll get, as these emails come out, we're probably going to see some racist comments and some homophobic comments and things like that. People thought they were saying in private, now exposed. And I don't know. It's going to probably look bad on the NFL. But don't you worry.
Who's suffering right now, though? Frank Caliendo. That's like half his act is gone now.
Right, the comedian.
He back on the Fox morning show, afternoon show?
I don't know. I haven't seen him.
So.
I thought it was that Rickles guy.
Don Rickles? He's dead, I believe.
No, not dead. No, there's another guy. His last name's Rickles. He's in a lot of comedies.
You mean
he's
Rick?
Generally not the lead. He's like the bad guy in 21 Jump Street, the movie.
Rick Rickles.
Is it Rick Rickles?
Richard Rickles. Which leads us into what the big story is. I mean, that's
he was doing it last time I saw it.
It's a bleed in to what's really going on with the Dave Chappelle comedy special, where there were things that were said there. Did we all three watch it? I did. Wick, did you watch it?
Yeah.
I watched it when it came out.
Okay.
Which was like a year or something ago. It was a long time ago.
No, there's a new one.
Oh, no, that's the new one. Yeah.
There's a
what do you think we'd be talking? You're the one that brought this whole thing up.
No, well, he talked about the LGBTQ and he made fun of them. He said a lot of controversial stuff, and the one that was shot at the Tabernacle.
No, this was shot in Detroit.
No, this is a new one in Detroit. Yeah.
Oh, it's a new one.
So let's help out.
Well, there's seems like there's no difference in the two.
Well, I would hope so, because that would be terrible for Netflix. But it's like
this one wasn't not as funny as the one in Atlanta.
Yeah, I would agree there.
Yeah.
It's 90 minutes. What, Wick? Maybe 70 minutes, 75 minutes, 60 minutes on gay jokes. Would you say?
Easily, yeah.
Easily. I think there was a lot of attacks from the one that you're talking about, Scott. I think he got a lot of heat, and he was like, all right. And, Netflix is going to give him, they have to give him creative freedom. I mean, that was the whole thing with his show, was that, he wasn't getting creative freedom, and, he pretty much balked and walked off for $50 million sitting at the table because a lot of people wanted to control what he was doing. Good for him. I mean, that's honorable. But, I think Netflix was really careful with the contract with him to say, hey, look, you got creative control. You're going to do whatever jokes you want to do. We'll deal with whatever comes, because there's too much money involved. And so he did. I would imagine if Netflix probably saw this comedy special, they would say, if they had to flex some muscle, maybe not so many gay jokes. Can we just maybe do half and half? Let's do some of your other material for the first half, and then let's maybe just kind of sneak into the gay jokes later. But that's what makes me believe he had creative control.
Complete creative control, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he was like, this is the way I took it. I'm getting crap from all the, the entire gay community. So
specifically the trans community.
Specifically the trans community. Here's 60 minutes of me just going off on you. Then how do you like it? Because I'm not gonna, I'm gonna do what I want to do. And I think that's kind of what it seemed like. I didn't take it that way as much as I felt like, and this is going to be a topic for you guys, really. I felt like, in a way, I'm going to get blasted for this, there's a part of Dave Chappelle that is a very anti-censorship and a very anti-control type of comedian. And I think this was his screw you to people that are trying to cancel comedy. He's a big name. He makes a lot of money. He's got a lot of gout. He has a lot of people that are fans.
He has a lot of gout.
And I think he was like, I'm just going to say, screw you. I'm going to blow up the whole thing, and I'm just going to go and see what happens. And I don't know, is comedy excluded from cancel culture or taboo topics, or do we used to not have lines in comedy? I think you both would agree. Mm-hmm. But with the way things have gone in America, as far as being more aware, more woke, and all this other stuff, are there now boundaries to comedy? Are we making a huge mistake?
Yes.
Well, there are a lot of people fighting against it. Yeah, it's definitely a mistake. Yeah. Rob Schneider's a big. He's got a big dog in the fight as far as cancel culture and comedy, and there's a bunch of other people as well. I guess Chappelle's the first one to really put the big foot forward first. Yeah. But
and also he can do it better than anybody else.
Yeah, and Bill Burr does too. I mean, his stuff is pretty intense. But he's also got the black wife and black children to fall back on.
I do feel like Chappelle.
I think he just did that as a defense.
Yeah, he just got married to a minority, so he could do it.
Yeah.
Listen, I think the Chappelle Show was a show that made everybody, regardless of what culture you're from, take a hard look at yourself and laugh. When I look at the Chappelle Show, I think one of the things that I think that is interesting about it, and probably appealing to a lot of people, is that it takes a ton of stereotypes and makes them funny. And it's black stereotypes, white stereotypes, Asian stereotypes, because, of course, I think he's married to an Asian woman. He takes a lot of stereotypes and just throws them out there and kind of taught everybody to say, now, this was a while ago. It's not something that he was current in the show. It was a long time ago. But kind of taught people to kind of learn to laugh about these things and kind of just, move on past them. I think one of the most brilliant things he did was when he did Clayton Bigsby, the blind white supremacist that was black.
That was hilarious.
And he had and all of all the Klansmen around him were all white, convincing him that he's, white and a Klansman. And during an interview, he's blind, so he doesn't know. And he's out there yelling all these terrible things about black people, and it makes you laugh at, and not that racism is funny, but it makes you laugh at some of the hypocrisy of it and the silliness of it in a way, and all this other stuff, especially organized hate groups. But I just think that there was a lot of brilliance behind a lot of the things he did that was a little bit deeper than a lot of people think that it was. And they just took it as funny. And maybe that was his frustration too. But I think that was always Dave Chappelle when he had his ability to do what he wanted to do, was always to put a mirror up in front of everybody's face and say, this is how we act. This is how black people act. This is how white people act. And in a way, almost to say, who cares? It's funny. It's funny. These are the things that are funny about our cultures, and there's no reason to be ashamed of those or act like they don't exist.
And I think he's never shied away from making fun of himself or his culture, in equal measure to everybody else. And I think a lot of people that are attacking him forget that. Because to me, the funniest joke was about his getting the vaccine. And that was hilarious.
The Magic Johnson of COVID.
Yeah, he got I got the third best vaccine.
Oh, the third best shot that they offered.
Yeah.
Give me what the poor white trash people are getting.
Yeah.
The Johnson and Johnson one shot. I mean, he's a great observationist. He, we'll probably get into who's great stand up or whatnot. That's all subjective. We've had that conversation before, but he's really brilliant. I think he's probably, as far as who's currently alive today, probably the top of the top. I mean, Norm's gone now, and Richard Pryor's gone. So, as far as who's living today, I would say you're probably your top two that are in popular culture. Probably Dave Chappelle, who has a cross, minority divide. I mean, you look at his show, it's black and white people. It's a lot of white people, but it's black people too there that enjoy his comedy. Bill Burr probably is in the top 3 or 4 of comics that are active right now.
Louis C.K. was.
He was, and he got into
Bill Burr's my favorite.
I think Bill Burr makes me laugh, but Chappelle makes me like belly laugh. There are things, it's just something about him that really gets me a real, true, deep, genuine laugh. And I think Bill Burr is very funny, and he has done that to me with certain things. So has CK. They've both done that to me.
CK, at the time, I thought he was the funniest comedian. That's why I was thinking it's very hard for me to go back and pick my favorite comedian. I can really only think of the current comedian that I like the most. Yeah. Because my image changes as comedy changes, time changes.
You're exactly right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the great comedians change the craft.
Hey, look,
there's like Don Rickles. He stuck to the same format, and it was never not funny.
I mean, God, Don Rickles would make a joke about absolutely anything. I remember I was watching the Norm show right after he died, and he was talking to somebody about interviewing Don Rickles, and Don Rickles Frank Sinatra had just died, and he asked him if he had gone to see Sinatra right towards the end, and he was like, "Yeah, there was a lot of this," and he was making jokes about his friend who had just died.
Man,
there was a lot of me 2 inches from his face going, "I'm not Barbara."
I'll tell you this to back up what you're saying. I saw a clip of him. I was researching some old stuff of his just because he was making me laugh. I was like, I'm just going to keep finding things of his just because I feel like in a mood. I just want to laugh. And he had done the muscular dystrophy benefit that Jerry Lee Lewis used to do all the time.
Jerry Lewis?
Jerry Lewis, sorry. Jerry Lewis.
And, Jerry Lewis, hell of a piano player, man.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah, that would have been awesome. Anyway, he comes out and he basically says, "Man, what's going around here? It's almost like you're all at a funeral." And it's a terrible joke, but everybody laughed. You know what I mean? And it made me chuckle. I mean, as terrible as it was, it made me chuckle. And I don't even know if when he said it, he realized the company he was in, because there's that weird, awkward nanosecond.
He did.
Where I know he did, but it was like, maybe this one won't go. Like, it was kind of this moment where it was like, well, maybe this one won't go over well. I just did it. Don't care. Oh, well, we're moving on. But it was just like this moment, and everybody laughed, and it's like there was nothing really off of limits to a lot of
those
comedians.
Those great comedians, the really, really good. They are, to me, humor is a demonstration of intelligence, and
which is why we're all.
There's just people out there who got it. They know how to deliver. They know the situation to deliver it in.
Yeah,
and they got the timing down.
And they bomb thousands of times until they get it right.
And they do, but
some of them do. Like Eddie Murphy.
There's some people who, but at the same time, they've made it. You either got that or you don't. And it is a lot of like you see it behind the scenes with you and your friends, and you're joking around. You try things, they hit or miss. You really don't give a shit because it's just you and your friends. They do that on stage in the smaller comedy clubs before they fine tune their shows that you see on TV.
Yeah. And just to get to that level, it is a lot of people don't realize how much work that is. That's, every night going to clubs, driving all over cities, doing, open mics until you get up, until you build your name. It's like Louis been doing it since he was 19.
Wasn't Rodney Dangerfield like basically bust his ass for comedy, and he didn't really even make it till he was like almost 50? I want to say. I don't think he was hitting. I don't think he was making the rounds like he did until he was much later in life, which is why everybody remembers Rodney Dangerfield in his late 40s and 50s.
How old was he in Caddyshack?
He had to be already like 60.
Yeah, he was like 60 something. Caddyshack.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, yeah. Well, Louis, like you're saying, Louis C.K. has been doing it since 19. The earliest I remember him mentioning his age, he was 44 when I first noticed him on the scene.
Yeah, it takes. I mean, and he was always like a comedian's comedian, but he hadn't broken through.
I think anytime you're an artist, whether it's a musician or comedic stand-up or even an actor, a writer, photographer, painter. I mean, I just think that you learn to really love what you're doing, because it's a really hard road, and it's a really low it's a really low percentage of really making it to be able to make a substantial.
There's only like 20 comedians that can go on the road and make a living.
Yeah.
And a lot of can do it.
And almost everyone outside that top 20, if not some of those in that late 20 lineup, would need somebody on the road with them, just a name.
Yeah, I have a friend.
I would say like a really good living. There are plenty that can make a living. They're not well known, but they can go city to city and sell at a small club.
Most comedians, most comedians,
John Cho. Huh?
Yeah, most comedians make a living. Usually they wind up in writing. They wind up comedy writers.
I mean, they're selling their tickets are like $10 a piece, but they draw the crowd for the weekend because they've made like a guest appearance one time on Seinfeld or something like that. That'll be what's in the ad.
Yeah. What's his name? The guy that was Dave Chappelle's partner on the Chappelle Show, Neil Brennan. You ever seen his stand up? Mm-hmm. He's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
The guy that played Biff from Back to the Future, that's what he does now, stand-up comedy. I wouldn't want to see him, but apparently he makes a living.
Correct. You know what's interesting? Have you ever seen that? It was a Comedy Central special, I think. It was Ricky Gervais, Chris Rock, Jerry Seinfeld, and Louis C.K. for an hour just talking shop.
Oh, wow.
And, it's great. And I didn't realize this about Ricky Gervais. Ricky Gervais did The Office before he started doing stand-up.
Yeah, he was also in a pop band.
Yeah, he was. And he was a DJ first. After he was in a pop band.
Like a Wham type of thing.
Yeah.
There's pictures out of him out there in like glam pop outfits and stuff. It's pretty funny.
And he's like skinny and
but I mean, like he's, I think he's brilliant too. I mean, we're lucky to live in the world.
Ricky Gervais is a genius.
Yeah, we've got some really great comedians.
A comedic genius.
I mean, there's a lot of guys that go from comedic acting to trying to do stand-up, and they just, Kramer's a prime example of that. He just was horrible.
Well.
Who?
Yeah.
Michael Richards.
Okay. I never saw him do stand-up.
He was.
I remember him in UHF. Yeah. He was hilarious.
Yeah, and then you can do something like Weird Al Yankovic and make millions of dollars just making fun of people's songs, and become like some kind of cultural icon where, you get like, think about Weird Al Yankovic is at the point where it's an honor to get a call from him. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I want to do a parody of your song. You know what I mean? You're like, wow, I've made it. Weird Al Yankovic. Like, who has it better than Weird Al Yankovic? I mean, honestly, you get to be a musician. You get to be a comedian. People love your stuff. Even if it's just for a short period of time and they kind of closet like it. They don't really like it. They just kind of like it. It's funny.
I heard his concerts are amazing.
Yeah, I've never been to one, but I mean, I've heard people say they're really good. And it's like, you can call celebrities at that point. You can call Lady Gaga or whoever you want to call and be like, hey, I kind of want to do a parody of your song. And what do you think? And then be like, oh, God, it's an honor. Yeah, absolutely.
That's a pretty good gig. I still say the best gig in the world is Bernie Taupin.
Got an update. Braves just tied it up in the 8th. It's 4-4.
Oh, nice.
2 plays at the plate on both runs.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, one was reviewed. The other one, they lost the ball. So couldn't hang on to it. All right.
Scott, our sports
because
reporter.
There's a lot of South Americans on the Braves. So
yeah, they're like, well, they like,
that's right.
Like baseball.
That's right. We're huge in South America. People forget.
There's a lot of South Americans in American baseball, but we draft a lot of them.
I tell you what, man, when we retire to South America, we're going to be gods. I can't wait.
Yeah,
I can't wait. I can't wait. Walking the streets and just having people throw money at you and ask for autographs. I can't wait.
We're huge.
We are huge in South America. Like, I can't. We joked about that. We joked about that early on, but we are really big in South America. It is true. We don't know how.
They like our Facebook page.
Yeah,
did you ever,
so it's showing up in their feed.
Did y'all watch News Radio?
I did not.
I did. Yeah, I love that show. I loved every character on that show until Phil Hartman died. I think I tried it for a little while and lost it.
Yeah. Do you remember when Jimmy wrote his autobiography and it didn't sell in America, but it was huge in Japan?
Jimmy was who?
Jimmy was the station owner.
Okay. Yeah, I do remember.
And he goes to Japan. It gets huge in Japan, so they decided to like translate it back to English from the Japanese translation, originally from English, and it came back donkey.
Yeah.
Like you would go to the airport and everybody's going donkey.
I forget his name.
What's his name? You remember the band Mr. Big?
Yeah.
They have basically sustained their living in Japan. I mean, they don't even have.
That'd be like David Hasselhoff in Germany.
Yeah, I mean, they basically, for that song "I Want to Be With You" or whatever, was such a big deal in Japan that they have. I mean, that's why you never hear about them now. They're still together doing stuff. It's just all in Japan. Like they'll just tour Japan and make a living, and they're like a huge, they're like the Beatles in Japan.
That's so weird.
It's so weird, but that's us in South America. We are the Beatles of South America. I mean,
Yes.
Except
I would just love to have.
We're amazing. We are amazing. Anyway,
I would roll down the stairs of the plane laughing if I walked off the plane and we got that kind of reception as the Beatles did.
Oh God!
We're on giant
because it would be complete disbelief.
All Southwest right now. All Southwest right now. See if they fly down there, because I we'd be waiting for 3 days to get out there. But I guarantee you, we show up. There's going to be plenty of women. Plenty of women out there, man, waiting for us. I mean, look at us. I mean, everything we get, we got everything except for money.
Well,
but maybe we go out there and live like
take care of that, Brazil.
Yeah. Well, hey, look, somebody rich over there. Hey, we can be the official podcast of the cartel, as far as I'm concerned, as long as they're paying us.
I don't agree with that. They scare me.
Oh, whatever.
You're freezing up, so it's like you choked up there.
As long as the check's clear, I don't care. Anyway, so discussing comedians and all this about Chappelle. Was there anything that
he froze up?
No,
I'm moving over here.
He's all right. Is there anything that you guys saw on the Chappelle?
Okay, it's just my
Scott didn't see it. But was there anything in the?
Yeah. Well, now I got something to look forward to tonight.
There you go. Is there anything in the Chappelle special, Wick, since you saw it, that you felt like? I mean, I'm not setting you up.
No, I honestly didn't. I didn't. I thought he was trying to bridge a gap. That's what I felt like he was trying to do, and defend his turf and defend comedians at large. And I thought he was talking about his friend, the trans comedian that committed suicide. I thought that was moving. I think maybe the only thing he said that like I could point to and say, I guess that's what they had an issue with, was his saying that everybody in this room came through a birth canal.
Yeah, there was a lot of. I mean, basically,
I did see that, but I thought that looked like the old one.
All right,
that was the new one.
That was the new one. Yeah.
Huh.
You're here now. You're with us, Scott. Everybody
saw that clip. I didn't see the show. I saw the clip.
It's taken us 45 minutes to establish that we all have seen it.
No, I haven't seen it. I saw that clip though, and I thought that was from the. It looked like the Tabernacle.
God, we're back to square one. We should be canceled. Anyway,
he was wearing the same clothes, I think, or that same weird Chappelle jumpsuit onesie thing.
Military jumpsuit.
Yeah.
Let's say this. I think he made and I think it's fine that he did. I don't care what people say.
You guys saw that too,
right? I don't know, Scott. Yeah, that would be it. The closer. Yeah. That was the last one. Yeah,
that was the last one. Yeah.
But the ratings.
Yeah,
I posted it on the thing.
Yeah.
This is all backwards. It's confusing me. I'm in reverse.
Yeah. I for one think that he the thing people get upset about right now is that I think he made a stance on gender, but the only thing he says is that there are two genders. There whether or not somebody wants to take on another gender doesn't mean that doesn't negate that there's two genders and only two genders. I don't have a problem with it. I'm with you. I to this day I don't think there's another gender. There's not a third or fourth. You know what I mean? Like I think there's this and that. You want to be this and that? Fine. I don't care. If you're born this and that, that's fine. More power to you. But you're still either both or one of each. There is nothing else. And I think but I mean, at the same time, he made fun of, the bathroom laws and all of that and how stupid that was. I think he probably played it hard on one side. He did go hard in the paint on several things. But I think at the end, I think what's sad is I don't know that the ending, like you said, Wick, was really what critics were paying attention to, which was that he had experience himself with a transgender comedian who was I wouldn't say was a very good friend, but she was a friend and somebody that he tried to help her career. And in his opinion, I got out of it was the fact that transgenders and the gay community, transgender community, that whole community was attacking Dave Chappelle not too long ago on Twitter.
Yeah.
And his transgender friend stuck up for him. That transgender community then turned on her. And it wasn't very long after that she killed herself. And I think that he said, you know what? I don't know. I thought it was really, really important that he said, I don't know how her tribe claimed her. I don't know how she was to her tribe, but I know she was in my tribe and I know what she meant to me. And I think that was a moment where he said individualism matters more than the classification of everybody or groups or whatever. It is about who you are as an individual that really truly matters. And he makes these jokes, but at the end of the day, this was something that he obviously cared enough about to talk about. Who was in that community that he's getting, pretty much, rolled by right now currently. And I think it was a strong statement.
It was very strong. I just wonder, and I thought it was a very, a lot of people will probably give me heat for this, but I thought it was very brave of him to do that. But at the same time, I wonder why he's so laser focused on this.
I think because he did some jokes.
I think he admitted to this. It hurts him when he receives heat.
He does not like people to not like him.
Yeah, he admitted that in the stand-up.
That's an admittance of weakness. Is that, hey, when these people do not like me, it does hurt me. It certainly does. I thought that was bold. Yeah. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. I was that way, like in dodgeball. But, I think at the end of the day, jokes are just jokes. And I think when the tension and the atmosphere is saying this is taboo, Dave Chappelle and a lot of comedians like him, Bill Burr and a lot of these guys, Norm Macdonald, spoke a lot about homosexuality and gays in the gay community and got heat for it. I think when it's a topic, they attack it. That is what they do. I think they always will take whatever's going on and whatever the story is or whatever they're getting heat for, and they're going to make it a platform. And I think that's part of the comedy makeup of somebody is that, okay, you don't want me to talk about this? Guess what? Guess what we're going to talk about?
Yeah.
And having creative control allowed him to do that. Now, again, I think Netflix is probably like, yeah, man, we got your back. Yeah. But deep down, they're like, man, I wish he would let us go in there and kind of adjust some of this. But the only way David Chappelle is probably going to do anything now is to have complete control because of what happened with his show. So I don't know. To me, nothing's taboo. Nothing's off limits. I mean, it's funny what's off limits and what's, somebody who is anti-religion or somebody who maybe would talk about religious things like Sam Kinison, who was a preacher at one time in his life. Sam Kinison was very, very big on attacking the Bible, making fun of a lot of the stories in the Bible. Kind of now
Ricky Gervais does the same thing.
Well, I think in the 80s, that's a lot harder thing to pull off, which is why Sam Kinison got a lot of crap, right? This is a time of televangelists. Christianity is a huge deal in the 80s. It's a huge business in the 80s. And here comes this comedian who used to be a preacher, just, letting things fly and using cuss words in descriptions of Bible scriptures and things like that. And it was like, oh, God, you can't do that. Well, he did. And now people look back and find him, they did at the time too, but a lot of his stuff now that things have lightened up, it is funny. And, people, they think they're in a room full of, conservatives, they'll trash Trump. I saw a video the other day of a guy who was trashing Trump and he got a bottle thrown at him from the crowd. I mean, comedians will always go after what's the most sensitive thing.
Didn't Norm Macdonald trash Hillary and Bill Clinton at their own at some sort of formal dinner?
Yeah,
I think he was invited to be the host.
The press corps. Yeah. That's what they're supposed to do.
Yeah,
they're hired to do that.
I think it seemed like he was a little bit. He crossed the line a little bit though in that one. Yeah, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they were just. Maybe they were harmless jokes.
I mean, here's the thing. That's what they're kind of supposed to do. Here's what I want everybody to understand. Crossing the line is not comfortable. Comedy is not always supposed to be really comfortable. It's not always supposed to be cozy. I mean, it's great to have.
I like it the way it is. I'm not trying to change it.
If you take comedy all the way,
how he would call the Clintons murderers.
Hold on. there are comics who do very well that stay within the lines. They do well. I can't remember the redheaded guy that does the family comedy all the time. He's popular. God, name slipped my mind. Anyway, he had a TV show for a little while. There are people who stay within the lines and they don't like to go beyond that, and they're comfortable there. But if comedy is one of those out front things that if it doesn't push the lines, we never really tend to grow or have a discussion. What's happening right now with what Dave Chappelle did is a discussion of what's off limits and what's okay in discussion with transsexualism and the gay community. And there may be a ton of people in the gay community that are like, hey, what Dave Chappelle said has made me laugh. It's not a big deal. It's the definition to make it bother me.
It's the definition of comedy.
Right.
I mean, you go back to the Middle Ages, the court jester comes in and, rides that fine line of offending the king
getting killed,
queen, or getting killed, or making them laugh. And
it's worth it. It's worth it for them.
That's what humor is.
Yeah, I mean, humor is a used to be a soft pitch way for us to discuss things. Like, we've seen comedian after comedian after comedian push the envelope, right? Even Carlin, we've seen people push the envelope that bring about discussion, and that's what's whether or not we want to admit it. That's what's happening with this Chappelle thing. Is that people are now having this conversation. You go on Reddit and people are having a conversation about, is anything off limits? Should anything be off limits? Why should it be? Why shouldn't it not be? These are discussions that should be going on in a community where a lot of people now are starting to get more in the mainstream about how they feel about things or the things that they're going through. And whether it's racism or whether it's sexuality or whether it's any of these things. And so I think comedy is one of those things that kind of brings us into a discussion because it allows us to kind of now to have people upset on this level is not common, but it is bringing everybody to the table to have a conversation in some way online about it, whether they feel like Dave Chappelle is not in the wrong or whether they do. So I think people forget that we have to have these things that allow us to engage each other and have these conversations to understand why we stand the way we do, or why we agree, or why we disagree with each other. I think Dave Chappelle's done a service that maybe people don't realize he has, and maybe his intention wasn't.
Do you think it's really a controversial subject, like that's got an even split, or do you think the people who don't like it just have a bigger microphone?
I think
because I'm looking at the review of the show is 97% of the audience gave it a good review.
Sure, but there's also how many that didn't of reviewers? 30-something?
Uh-huh.
No, it's 30-something percent.
33% of actual people who get paid to write reviews.
No. Listen, there 33% of the critics didn't. I know that's a critic thing too. Where people professional critics criticize it. I mean, that's, or either they like a movie, they don't like a movie critic.
Oh no, if you go in and read them, it's all about the politics of it.
Okay. That still says though that there are people who have an objective opinion about it. Whether or not they watched it, they still feel like, hey, this is taboo. That is a conversation that still needs to be had.
They also want to keep their jobs. Yeah.
I mean, it's still a conversation that needs to be had because we are talking. So, we're getting deep here, but there is a touch of, hey, we have these high school athletes and college kids and all this other stuff that are racing as males, that are females, and back and forth, and wrestling and all this other stuff. It is something that's becoming a topic for people. Now, is it something that affects most lives? Maybe not, but it is something that maybe people feel passionate about or have an opinion about. And I do think that it is something that's becoming more to the forefront as the transgender community gets larger and they get a bigger microphone and they're saying things on social media. I think it does bring about a conversation that might begin to become necessary. Just like race became necessary, a discussion. Now it's something that a lot of people are discussing, whether you like it or hate it, whether you think it's projection or whether you think it's truth. It doesn't matter. There's a discussion now that most people probably felt like need to be had. And so I think we always have something that needs to do greater discussion that we just can't bury all the time. I mean, that's my opinion. You guys, whatever, but not whatever, but whatever you think, you can say. But I just think these things bring about, screw you guys. I just think these things bring about the evolution of discussion, right? I mean, here we are talking about it.
I think basically these big controversies with controversial topics, what they do is they make a lot of people rich, especially when it comes to race and the LGB community, transgender, things like that. There's a lot of big groups out there that take donations, and we've seen it in Black Lives Matter. They've caught several.
I believe they're in trouble too,
taking
right?
tons and tons of money and buying these huge homes, and they only survive if they create controversy and put it in the spotlight. And the donations get bigger when they push something into the spotlight.
And the media gets more attention. I mean, the media needs more stuff to fuel. I mean, that machine needs stuff, whether it's Fox or CNN. They need fuel.
I'll even point at PETA. Like when they got on, they made that big deal about the horse racing, whatever it's called. About the way they treat the horses and stuff like
Kentucky
that.
Derby?
Yeah, Kentucky Derby and all those. And it drew a big deal to that because I think one of them may have hurt his leg, there was a fracture or something.
What about the way they treat the jockeys? It's horrendous. The whole sport is just.
Oh, really? I've never paid a bit of attention to horse racing. So.
Oh yeah, all the jockeys are anorexic.
This is what I'll say about
keep their weight down.
That's what I'll say about PETA. PETA runs shelters. They have a group of shelters.
They have to. They have to have a purpose. But they're making a lot of money too.
They kill animals when they can't be bought or traded or whatever. They euthanize animals.
That's to control rabies.
Critical, in my opinion. It's a little.
I worked at an animal shelter, and they said the reason why we put them down because I felt bad. I was asking questions. There was this cat that I just loved, and I saw a little spot on her eye, and it turned out to be ringworm. They took her to the back. Bam, she was gone. Next thing I know, minutes later, they said they do it because number one, they can't afford the health of all the animals that come in there. Then they can't afford it to spread around to all of them.
Right.
But also when they euthanize these animals after so much time, the reason why they go get them, they bring them back there, they try to give them homes, then they euthanize them is to control the spread of rabies because it could be a really huge epidemic if they didn't exist.
That makes sense.
Well, I think sometimes humanitarianism
not to stand up for PETA. Fuck PETA.
Yeah. Sometimes being humanitarian is putting something out of its misery. It's not always trying to put it through a hell of a life just to keep it going. I mean, no offense. There are people that keep cats alive that have cancer because they just can't part with their pet. And it's like, I'm sorry, you gotta let that pet, if you care, you don't want it in pain anymore, I'm not judging people who have done that. I'm just saying that sometimes the most humanitarian thing you can do is let something go. But anyway, so, we're all in agreement that really comedy, there's nothing really taboo. Is there anything that you hear in comedy that you're like, man, that's just over the top? I mean, I'll tell you what mine is just to set the tone. I'm not a big person that enjoys comedy about pedophilia. It's just one of those sensitive topics to me. I don't think it's funny.
I don't think I've heard it. Braves won. Braves won. Oh my God, the Braves have won. To quote Skip Carey, 1992.
Is there anything that's taboo to you? I mean, maybe you guys would laugh at it, and I didn't judge you if you did. It's just
I've even heard pedophilia jokes that
I haven't heard them. I don't know.
Well, kind of.
Who tells them?
That's Louis.
I can't. I mean, okay, I can see what you're saying.
Louis told one about why is every guy who sculpts a fountain a pedophile? It's always like a naked boy pissing. And that is kind of weird. Why is it that way?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I don't know. I've just heard jokes that have been made in passing, especially in a comedic set where it might be and people laugh. I don't sit there and go, "How dare you?" But it's just not funny to me. I don't, because I think it's just the lowest. I think there's a couple of things that are just the lowest of the low. Animal abuse is probably one, and child abuse is another. I mean, and especially molestation and things. So hard to think about somebody who goes through that and the struggle to get their life back at a young age. So unfair. So jokes like that, I don't really. It's fine.
Well, even Chappelle made a joke
Yes, he
about
did.
Michael Jackson.
Yep.
About LA.
That
he
was
said
the
something
one
in
I
this
saw,
last
right?
one.
The old one.
Yeah.
He's like,
said,
yeah, but it's Michael Jackson.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He did one in this one with the closer about a priest when he was an altar boy, and it was about a minute long. And I didn't really laugh about it because it's kind of like, man, it's uncomfortable for me because I don't think that stuff is funny. But if somebody else laughs, I don't care. Whatever. If you think that stuff's funny, that's good. Whatever. Just not for me. So I didn't know if there was something for you guys that you felt like was always a little something. And you're like, it's hard for me to laugh at. Some
Not
people
for
find
me,
it religious
because I mean, the darker the joke or the darker the topic, I mean, that's why we have comedy, is to laugh at how horrible these things truly are. I mean, it's
and I think you
really
gotta find humor in everything.
the only way to get through something as heinous and as grotesque as pedophilia.
Yeah.
And
some
to
people
keep our sanity as human beings.
I
Sure.
feel it
And
as like more of a shock joke, I guess.
Yeah.
Something to really catch the crowd off guard.
And some people are very uncomfortable. Some people are very uncomfortable and don't like political comedy. I mean, you know what I mean? It can be whatever. You know what I mean? But yeah. So I don't know. I think it's a gateway for a lot of discussion to happen. And for people to have this discussion about transgenderism, because I think there's a lot of people that and me included, that don't really understand it. I can honestly say it. I don't understand a whole lot of it. I'm not going to go into why and the questions I have. I don't get it fully. And that makes me ignorant, I'm sure. But I just think these discussions are discussions that, Dave Chappelle has now done a great job at opening the doors to discuss, and kind of sacrifice maybe some of his career for it. Maybe. I doubt it. He's always going to be one of the best. I mean, listen, Joe Rogan says that Dave Chappelle could honestly tell jokes for 12 hours.
Damn it.
Didn't he break the record or something for doing jokes for 72 hours straight? Like, he thinks about them on the spot.
I don't think it was that long, but he holds the record, I think, at the Comedy Store for longest time on stage.
I was trying to look it up real quick. Longest stand-up set. He broke his own record. And this was something that Rogan was saying. I'm trying to 6 hours. Yeah, I really went over, didn't I? It was like 72 hours. It's like, he has a record for 800 hours of comedy straight. Sorry, I really misled a lot of people on there. Somebody just turned off the show and went to their friends and was like, "Did you know Dave
Chappelle did stand up?
Well, I'm done watching now.
It's 6 minutes and
he kept doing stand up after the club closed. He just stood there until the next night doing comedy.
And we're sure it was funny.
Yeah, the whole everything.
He did 6 hours and 7 minutes and broke it again by doing 6 hours and 12 minutes. But Joe Rogan, who's really a good friend of his, said, and I don't find Joe Rogan incredibly funny in his stand-up personally. I mean, there are overrated comedians. I think Joe Rogan probably up there. I think Joe Rogan used to be really funny in his stand-up before he got really popular. Now I just think that there's a lot of, hey, you're really funny. And
I didn't think he was funny, but his last special that I saw, maybe he's got a new one, but the last special I saw on Netflix was funny.
Was it? I just don't watch him that much. I've seen some of his stuff.
I've never really been a huge fan, other than the fact that he's not afraid to discuss serious topics.
I don't think he was as funny that I've seen recently as I did in his earlier stuff. I thought he was a lot funnier, maybe when he was a little bit more desperate. I don't know what, I don't know. It just
Yeah, you
came
can't be
across
funny and have $200 million. You
yeah,
have to.
yeah.
It
it's
really
tough.
takes some doing to stay funny.
But he
But
he was good on news radio. So.
he said that Dave Chappelle, the brilliance of Dave Chappelle is that he does write jokes, but that he can literally have a microphone for 6 hours and think of jokes as he's going. And I think that's such a rare breed of somebody who can really just do that on spot. Where I think like we've heard where Jerry Seinfeld studies a joke for weeks, months, years at a time, where
Yeah.
he writes a line and then he writes the punchline and then he'll just sit on it, looking at it over and over again and just studying it and the delivery of it and how he has, and then he'll just get rid of it or he'll keep improving it. And it's like he almost is over like analytical about his comedy. Whereas I think Dave Chappelle, and some of the charm of Dave Chappelle, in all honesty, is that his ability to have a comedic mind where he can just talk about stuff and have a funny punchline to it in the moment. And that's rare. I mean, I would think that most comedians would be terrified to do that. And because I doubt he's got 6 hours worth of stuff in his head. It's probably just, in fact, Joe Rogan said that Dave
Chappelle's playing
where
jazz
he's
is what
from-
he's doing.
where he's from in a little town in Ohio, will take a microphone and I think he was saying it was like a karaoke machine, and we'll go stand in the corner in this little town that he lives in and do comedy and just tell jokes on the corner of the street. And he said it's stuff that most comedians would crawl through glass to have that comedy, like those stories, the delivery, the way he does it. He was like, comedians would sell their souls to be able to do what he can do just on the corner of a street, just trying out material. So I think he's just a rare breed, man. I think he's definitely up there. He's a legend, or he's going to become a legend for sure. So I think people just need to just laugh and relax. And you know what? Laugh at yourself sometimes, man. It's okay. I'm an overweight guy. When they make fat jokes, they're funny. You know what I mean? Like, I don't get offended by it.
And you also have to, he's lucky to live, now when there's not quite the retribution there was for, say, Lenny Bruce. I mean,
Yeah.
Lenny Bruce took so much heat, he OD'd and died because he was the first guy to really kick open the door to comedy as we know it today by doing material. His genius was, and no comedian, because we worked nightclubs back then, and you always do when you're a comedian, obviously, but you would have a big, a band, like a small orchestral band to the side, and they were often playing strip clubs. And back then, the band played as the stripper did her thing, and then the comedian would come up and do his act. And Lenny Bruce changed things forever because he stopped telling jokes to the audience, or he stopped trying to make the audience laugh. Mm-hmm. And he started trying to make the band laugh.
Yeah.
Because he knew the band was the hippest guys in the room. And
Bill Hicks, right?
Yeah, Bill Hicks kind of did, but there's nothing Bill Hicks did that George Carlin and Lenny Bruce hadn't done much earlier.
I think with that stuff, to be fair, you're talking about the times of what people would be okay with now may not have been okay with then. And I think Bill Hicks was doing a lot of stuff then that people would not be okay with now. Or I'm sorry, we're not okay with then that are okay with now. I think people have lightened up a little bit. I think Bill Hicks could be quite offensive. And that was part of the humor for him, was to offend people and almost,
Oh yeah,
but
Bill Hicks is definitely was way up there. But I think he's a descendant of Lenny Bruce and George Carlin.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. And listen, if you guys haven't seen The Closer, watch it without your kids. That was one thing we always have to balance is freaking watching stuff with our kids right now. I mean, dude, never thought I'd say it, but the F word is definitely becoming like a normal part of conversation in television and movies now. It's like
and
nobody says it that much.
Wait till
Nobody
they get
says
to
that word that much in conversation. It's unbelievable.
Wait till they get to music.
I know it's happening. I'm not going to really shield them, but they're just a little young right now.
Yeah.
But on that, I want to tell you guys too. I got Apple TV, and I know you guys are streamers. Do you guys have Apple TV? I just got it last week.
No, I've seen the morning show. Saw you mention that in the chat. Good show.
Yeah, the morning show is good. Did you watch any of that, Wick? Do you have Apple TV?
No. I
really?
I think I did at one point, but it was
you were an Apple guy. You're an Apple guy. You don't have Apple TV.
They haven't come out with anything programming.
Kind of look like an Apple.
That really has wanted me to spend the money.
Yeah, I think a lot of their stuff now, like the morning show was the thing, you know what I mean? I just don't like Reese Witherspoon, man. I just do not find her acting natural. Does she feel natural as an actress to you guys? It seems like she's always acting in a movie. Like it doesn't feel like her and Jennifer Aniston are in this morning show. And I definitely am into Jennifer Aniston's character. I feel like she's who she's playing. You know, I just feel like Reese Witherspoon almost overacts a normal acting role. Like I can tell she
had more Carell in that show.
Yeah, Carell's amazing. But am I off with her? I just feel like her acting is really obvious.
I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan, but she's cute.
The machinery shows, and it shouldn't show.
Yeah, I don't know. Try it, Wick, if you get a chance. Morning show is pretty good. It's a good drama.
They also have Ted Lasso too. Have you seen that?
I watched an episode of it, but I didn't get through it. But everybody says it's really funny. Did you like it?
I haven't seen it.
Did you see it?
It's gotten great reviews.
Yeah, it's supposed to be really, really funny.
So maybe one that you need to stick out a few episodes, maybe 5.
Yeah. We just got on the morning show was the next thing, and we just kind of rolled with it because it's only 2 seasons. I think it's only on a season and a half. So it was just easier just to get through that. And then we'll probably go back and watch Ted Lasso because a lot of people told me it's really great.
I was pissed this week because there was going to be a big announcement from Netflix and David Fincher. And I was like, here it is, Mindhunter 3. They're going to do it.
Mindhunter 3. Oh, yeah.
What is it?
It's some docu-series he's going to do about filmmaking.
No, thank you.
But I need Mindhunter. It's the best show on television.
Yeah,
I have not watched it.
Mindhunter, yes.
I've heard it's good. I just haven't
really good.
I think I saw the first season right when it was released, and I just saw David Fincher, and I was a fan, so I stuck it out. It's one that you gotta stick with. There's a lot of dialogue, but I think he keeps it interesting, even though there's a lot of dialogue building up to what happens. And it's not a normal format with shows. It'll take like 3 shows to finish, like 2 or 3 shows to finish one investigation. Then he goes on to another one.
Yeah, it's interesting how they blend that in, like with the big cases that department had to, or that group had to deal with in the beginning.
Yeah, and then the second season's all about one investigation, one that we're familiar with.
Yeah.
Scott, have you watched anything lately? I know you're usually pretty active. Have you watched anything lately?
Well, I watched the What If. I decided to watch the What If series it's on Disney.
Oh,
I downloaded it. Yeah, it's all animated, but it's like basically it's all the movies. A lot of the movies that we've seen in the past, like Guardians of the Galaxy, Captain America, there's Infinity War, Avengers 2, but it's all like what if Ultron won, and like how it affects everybody. What if Black Panther as a child was abducted instead of Peter Quill for Guardians of the Galaxy? And he's a very inspirational character who encourages people to do good. So that totally changes like a lot of.
And that is insane,
huh?
That is insane that Marvel has gotten so big that they
have What If Zombies too.
That they could do a What If show.
They have What If Zombies, and that takes place during Infinity War. And what happens is the Michael Douglas character from Ant-Man, he goes to find his wife in the subatomic world and finds her, and she has some sort of brain disease, and brings it. He catches it, and they bring it back, and they're like little small, ant-sized creatures that fly around. They're biting people and turning them into zombies, and the Avengers become zombies. And I think just a few of them survive. The Hulk being one of them, but a lot of them end darkly. Doctor Strange was the best one. It's like, what if he lost his heart instead of his hands? Because he couldn't move his hands, so that's why he went and fought. He sought the dark arts and became a sorcerer. Well, in this case, he lost his girlfriend that he loves, and he sought the dark arts to bring her back, and he couldn't.
So he became evil,
huh?
So he became evil.
Yeah, well, he couldn't. He tried, and he did somewhat become evil, but something happened, and they split the timeline into two. And you have to see it. I don't want to give it away, but it was actually a very good story. Now, some of them not as good as others, but that's what I saw.
I would watch that slow.
I think it's very interesting if you take like a story that you're familiar with, and you see like what one little thing can change everything. I mean, the butterfly effect is in full effect in these shows.
Yeah.
That's insane. I watched. We discussed it. I got 2/3 of the way through the first episode of Midnight Mass, and I was like, "Son of a bitch."
Yeah. That means I'll guess it in half the times because I'm smarter than Rick. I want to watch it though, but because I hear good things about it. But I think if Wick figured it out, I will too.
It's fun. I won't say that I didn't figure out in that fast a time, but I kind of knew something was up, and then I was like, wait,
something was up with the makeup, and I could not. I'm like, okay, everybody's in old makeup, so I'm not gonna, spoil anything for anybody, but so clearly there's gonna be flashbacks.
I liked Midnight Mass because it's
old. I did not like it. Once I called it, I can't like.
It's hard for you.
It's hard for me after that. Yeah.
Midnight Mass was the one where you stayed up till 3 a.m. right? Watching.
Yeah, I just watched it because it was just fun. It was just fun. I couldn't watch it with the kids around, so me and the wife just stayed up watching it to get it over. And we both just thought it was just fun. It's rare that you get a fun movie that tells a pretty cool story. I told Wick
it is a lot like Salem's Lot, though.
Salem's Lot. So, and I thought Salem's Lot was
like as far as the scary scene with the kid in the window.
As far as like just the overall theme, maybe
the theme, the atmosphere, the vibe of it is
the vibe. Yeah.
Okay. I love as far as horror movies. This made-for-TV horror movie that came out in the 70s
was incredible.
It scares the crap out of me. Probably the most.
What's funny?
It may be.
And the book had me up at night. I couldn't go to sleep. That was the first book I ever read.
I
put it down and couldn't go to sleep.
And Stephen King did not want to write that book.
I can tell you guys.
He doesn't like vampires.
I can understand that. I don't either. But that was a good book.
Yeah.
I can tell you guys honestly, it wasn't that long ago that I found the miniseries somewhere for free. And I wish I could tell y'all where, because I know you both would love to go back and watch it, because it's probably been a while. Man, it's so good. It's such a good little miniseries.
Yeah,
it was so good. The original miniseries.
I can get it.
70-something. Yeah. It's streaming somewhere for free. But anyway.
Wasn't Salem's Lot his third book?
I don't know.
The first one I ever read. I was in the ninth grade.
That kid in the window.
It was in our library. Unbelievable.
I would have to say that kid in the window is probably top for me, number one, probably scariest scene in television history, because that will mess you up, dude. Where the kid's trying to go
on the window real slow.
Yeah, it's so creepy.
He's floating out there, like, dude, that's everybody's nightmare. You know what I mean? Like, God,
well, they did it like just like the way when you read it. I mean, it was very much close to. It was very close to the book, and the vampire was the coolest looking vampire I think I've ever seen.
It's kind of based on Nosferatu, isn't it?
Yeah, he looks like Nosferatu, which they're remaking.
I'll say this: it definitely stands up. I mean, still, it definitely stands up, because I thought, oh man, this will be old and dated, and it'll probably be good. I'll just watch it and just see if I get that. Man, it still stood up. So definitely, if you want to do a rewatch, it's so good. What else is going to? Oh, I've been watching. Do you guys watch that on Netflix? The movies that made us.
Yeah,
I
I watched the Ghostbusters and Dirty Dancing and one other.
They do the toys that
Dirty
made us, and the Dirty Dancing one was really interesting. I thought that was a very good.
Well,
one.
it's just like some movies, it was so hard and it seemed impossible to get made, and that was one of them. Just all the things they went through to get it made, not as far as like the plot. And
I think that almost happens with every movie. It's a fucking miracle movies get made.
Like Ghostbusters was a miracle it got made.
Yeah.
Like they did not have the rights to the name Ghostbusters when they were making it. They were having to shoot every scene twice with people chanting and saying Ghostbusters and then people saying something else, ghost something. It sounded horrible.
Yeah, because there was
you've seen the documentary about the behind the scenes of Island of Dr. Moreau, haven't you?
No.
Oh,
I heard that was like a very different. I remember hearing about that being a difficult movie.
This is just like it's just 30 minutes like snippets of several movies from the 80s, and I think some of them are from the 90s too. But it's just really cool because they just released Halloween, how Halloween was made, which is just like Michael Myers is just a guy who was standing on set who was watching them make the movie. And they were, I don't think they were ever really going to have a Michael Myers in the movie. It was all supposed to be like this, either through his mask or like these scenes that just give you an intense like feeling. There wasn't even supposed to be blood in the movie. In fact, I don't think there is blood in the movie. But anyway, they had this guy on set who was just like, "Hey, can I watch?"
Right?
Yeah, it's turned inside out.
Yeah,
it's turned inside out. But he goes, "Can I watch you guys make the movie?" And John Carpenter's like, "Yeah, sure." And John Carpenter was like a nobody at that time. And so this guy's like watching him watch the movie, make the movie. And he was like, "Well, we need somebody to stand over here where Michael Myers would be so that she's looking at something in the right direction. Could you come stand over here?" And all that. And then eventually they're like, "Let's just put him in. Let's just throw a mask on him and make him like Michael Myers." And they sent one of the guys down to buy mask, and he bought two masks. He bought a clown mask and he tried that on. They were like, "Oh yeah."
Thank God they didn't go with that.
There was also a Spock mask and a William Shatner mask, and he said it looked nothing like William Shatner. So he's like, "Man, it had this creepy look to it." So he's like, "I grabbed that one and I grabbed a clown mask. I brought it back and we did the scene. We tested it, did the clown mask. Man, that's kind of creepy. The clown mask is definitely creepy." And then he said that he took the Shatner mask and cut the eyes out and painted it white and then dyed the hair black. And they said when he put that on, everybody was like, "Holy shit. Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's the mask." And so that guy was in the movie just because he was standing around watching him make it. And they were like, "Hey, can you stand here like for the camera angle so she's looking at the right direction?" And they're like, "Well, what if we just throw a mask on this guy?"
You were not going to see the killer at all?
I don't think that was their original plan. It was just supposed to be a movie about the intense situation. It was never supposed to be about him really being seen. So like when he's out of the bushes, she's just supposed to be looking at the bushes like she saw something, but they needed somebody to stand in.
That would have never worked. Thank God that they made that decision.
But I mean, that's the magic of these like little documentaries that are just like 30 minutes long, is that you find out these things are crazy like that.
Take it further than that. The franchise was never supposed to be about Michael Myers. It was supposed to be something different called Halloween every year.
Yeah.
But then like they had to compete with Friday the 13th. And
well, Friday the 13th was later.
That and Michael Myers became a popular character.
They said Friday the 13th didn't even have a script when they all showed up. It was just like, we don't know what we're doing. So they had this.
I went and tried to rewatch that. And I'm like, I haven't seen this. It's bad. Like even the first one is bad.
No, go see parts. I think it's part 6. Watch part 6. It's the only one that really, really just completely doesn't take itself seriously at all. It's the dumbest one out of all of them, which also at the same time makes it the best one out of all of them.
Is it Jason Takes Manhattan?
No, that's 8.
How do you take yourself seriously?
I know them all. I saw them all in the theater. But like 6 is the one called Jason Lives, where they're digging up his grave. And then like a piece of rod gets stuck in him somehow, and then it gets struck by lightning, and that's what brings him back to life.
Is that the one where like he picks up one of the campers in a sleeping bag and beats the other camper to death?
No, that's in the one that Michael Bay remade, which is just called Friday the 13th, which really should have been Friday the 13th 11. It's the same shit. But that's happened twice though. It happened in the original series somewhere, and I think it was like part 4 or part 3. But it may have been in 6. 6 is the one that has all the kids in the RV, and then the RV like wrecks at one time and it's over sideways, and Michael Myers is standing on top of the RV while it's sliding down the road sideways. Not Michael Myers, but Jason. Yeah, he's still standing on top of it, and it's while it's sliding down the road. I don't know.
At some point you think he would have gotten arrested.
No, dude. I think they tried to arrest him. This one involved the sheriff's station, and he killed them all.
Yeah,
they've done.
And then nobody comes to to investigate that crime.
Can we bring in the National Guard? Because this has happened 8 times.
It happens over and over and over again.
We know this guy is
the same day every year. The same day every year. Yeah, you'd think that they would be able to lay that trap every year. How about this? On Friday the 12th, or on the Thursday the 12th, we all go to Crystal Lake and we wait with machine guns and tanks, and then we just resolve this whole situation. But they don't ever do that. They keep opening the camp, and and they keep opening camp on Friday the 11th, which is on Wednesday the 11th, which is just like what? That doesn't make any sense. Like, many people have to die.
Whoever's running that camp is grossly irresponsible.
Yes.
Right? There should be a million lawsuits. Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street. I haven't seen that one yet. I'd like to see that. RoboCop, Aliens was pretty good. Did you see the Aliens ones, Scott?
No, I haven't seen that one.
What are you talking about? Oh, they did an Aliens movies that made us?
Aliens or Alien?
Coming to America, Nightmare Before Christmas was pretty good. And
is it Aliens or Alien?
Aliens. So number 2.
So that means there's 3 of them now. Movies that made us.
3 seasons?
Yeah, well, there's 3 seasons. Okay,
there's got to be, because none of those that you're naming were in there. I saw the first 2, most of them, the ones I was interested in.
This is all of them. Dirty Dancing, Home Alone, Ghostbusters, and Die Hard. And then they did Back to the Future, Pretty Woman, Jurassic Park, and Forrest Gump was really good. And then they're
saw
doing
the Forrest Gump one.
Yeah, really good. But anyway, I love these things, man. I love watching them. You get just enough background without being bored. Like a guy like me, you guys would probably be more interested in more detail. But I really enjoy it for my brain, my short attention span. That I like this really kind of basic, like background information that I find really interesting on how the movie was made. And like I was telling you guys, Friday the 13th didn't even have a script. When everybody showed up, they were just all standing around, and it was like, okay, how about this? You go over here and you do this and you get chased by that. It was like they completely just winged it. But at the end of the day, even though it may not be a great movie, it made a ton of money.
And they got Kevin Bacon?
Yeah, they got
Before
Kevin Bacon
with no script.
Oh yeah, that was like his first movie.
No, I don't think Kevin Bacon. That would have been Friday the 13th. Would have been before Footloose.
Oh yeah, that was
Kevin Bacon. I mean, that was the 70s when Friday the 13th came out. Maybe 78, maybe even before that.
Yeah, it might have been 80, but it was probably made in 79 or something like that. It went on to make, so dig this. It went on to make, it was made for $550,000, made $60 million.
Wow.
And that's why they were so popular doing these movies in the 80s. Halloween cost $300,000 and made $70 million. That's what started that whole thing in the 80s. Like Nightmare on Elm Street and all that, that's kind of what you get from all these, is that the budgets could be really small because you didn't have to have a big time director. Like I said, Carpenter was not a big deal when Halloween was done. He was
Texas
a small
Chainsaw
guy.
Massacre started it.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about budgets of
was like a $5,000 movie, I think.
Yeah,
it was really cheap.
People just love them at the theaters, especially in the 80s. Now it's a little bit more difficult to write a horror movie that's going to do well in the theaters. But back then,
looking at Scream 5.
People, I remember when we were like, in the 80s, everybody going to watch the movie, like everybody went and saw horror movies on a Friday night, because it was just fun. It's fun to be creeped out. Everybody ride down Peters Road and go to the theater over there at South Lake and
I went there all the time.
Out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I just think it was like an event back then. I think a lot of people forget how much an event going to a horror movie in the 80s really was on a Friday night. It was a lot of fun for people. And so, they can make these movies with no major actors or actresses. They could probably make it on a very, who are they paying? Special effects guys that just had to figure out how to pump blood out of an arrow wound or how to cut off a head. You know what I mean? And the scripts were probably not that important. Probably didn't even need to have great actresses or actors.
That's the key, is you don't need stars.
Low budget, you get it out in the theaters, and all of a sudden it's making millions of dollars. And it was like, that's why the 80s was such a high point for horror movies, was that they could just do it at such a cheap price and make so much money.
Excuse me.
So if you get a chance, Wick, watch these. I think you would love these.
I saw the Forrest Gump. I saw a couple of the other ones. I forget which ones I've seen, but the Forrest Gump one was great. And another, they cannot believe it got made story.
Yeah. Yeah, like it was like some little
because what he gave
a
up
newspaper who wrote the book or something, like some nobody wrote the book, and some people loved it, some people hated it, but it was like the people who loved it that were just like, it's got to get done. This movie has to happen.
Everybody was attached to that at one point.
Yeah,
everybody.
And I mean, of course, I'm sure once Tom Hanks is in love with something, it's getting done, because he gave up a lot of money to make that movie.
Yeah, he did.
He got paid on the back end. That's what smart actors that know what they're writing, what they're doing. They're like, hey man, just give me $2 million, and then just give me, a percentage of the box office. If it flops, it flops. And then the next thing you know, they're getting paid crap loads of money.
I think he made $75 million from Saving Private Ryan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wonder if you paid the kid that played Forrest Gump, because apparently he's the entire inspiration.
His voice,
the way he played it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I want to see the RoboCop one. I think it'll be good. Anyway, yeah, if you get a chance to see those, watch those. Well, guys, I think we're good. You guys have anything you want to throw out before we get out of here?
No.
Go Braves, man.
Steady time.
Yeah,
man,
go Braves.
We're doing good getting out of here at midnight lately, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's usually 12:30. Yeah.
Well, not tonight. Not tonight.
But we also have to start later.
Celebrate your Braves win. Celebrate your Georgia win. Celebrate your Alabama win. Celebrate your Falcons win. Oh, wait. I guess it's a win if they don't play.
Yeah.
Exactly. The Falcons didn't play today?
No.
I just look at my fantasy football app, and that's it with the NFL right now.
How did the Braves win?
Braves won with a walk-off hit in the ninth inning. They had a runner at second, and
I got a question.
Rosario got a single up the middle and knocked him in.
I got a Braves question.
Mound pile. Go ahead.
Let me know when you're okay. Why does that dude wear the pearl necklace?
He doesn't really answer that question. He's like, I just like it. He's kind of like
have you seen this, Vic?
He's kind of just being comedic about the whole thing, but they're real pearls. He said he got them from he got his jeweler to get them for him. It's mostly probably contradict all the players that in a comedic way to contradict all the players that wear the gold chains. Yeah. He's going to wear the pearl. But now everybody's wearing pearls like they go to the game. Because he actually hit the tying home run tonight that tied it up 2-2.
But since he's worn those pearls, hasn't he played better or something?
No, he's always been good in October. That's why they call him Jocktober. His name's Jock Peterson. And he beat us last year in the Dodgers Braves setup. He's got 12 home runs in the postseason. So he's more like he's a bench player and a fill-in player. But when it comes to October, he's hitting game winning and game tying home runs.
He's dynamite. So you think this is a World Series team or no?
I definitely think it's a World Series team. However, I think the Dodgers are a World Series team.
All right. So do you know who they would play after this? Just curious.
The winner of the Astros and the Red Sox. And right now it looks like they're tied 1-1 right now. So it looks like it might be the Red Sox. The Red Sox look like the better team.
Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah, I don't know, so I'm just asking, man. I'm keeping up with it. Like I said, I'm one of those guys that when they get into the playoffs. Like I don't watch a Hawks game, get them in the playoffs. All of a sudden, I'm interested in the Hawks. It's just because I don't have time more. Anyway, hey man, had fun tonight, guys. Enjoy your what's next week's not Halloween, is it?
Nope. Week after that.
We gotta do a Halloween thing maybe next weekend. Like think of a theme like that. So y'all think about it. Maybe do horror movies or something, even though we just did that, but that was kind of something different. But I know Wick and I've done horror movie stuff before, but I don't know, maybe things that creep you out or creepy stories that you've witnessed. Anyway, we'll maybe
we can go to horror movies that are kind of off the beaten path, hidden gems that I've seen.
Yeah,
really good horror movies rather than talking about the 80s slasher movies,
Unpopular horror movies. That might be a good list. All right, guys. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We had fun. Hello, South America. We'll be back next week. Hope everybody has a great week. Be kind to each other. Say goodbye, guys.
See y'all.
See you.
Have a good week.
I don't know what's going on because y'all are freezing out.
Oh, sorry. Well, we are done now. By the time you get this, we'll be off the air. Have a good night, Scott.
See y'all.
now you're working.
See y'all later.
All right. See ya.
Later.
Good night.
Bye.